Well, hello. My name is Christopher Poor. I am actually the president of the Oakeshott Institute, and today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite swords. This sword was also one of Ewart Oakeshott's favorite sword. In fact, it's the only one he gave a name. They called it Moonbrand. I never really did get an explanation of why. It's a Type 14. It's last quarter of the 13th century. So this would be about 1260, 1275. It's a classic medieval broadsword. The blade is fairly wide, but as you may see, it's also very, very thin. It has a Type K pommel and a Type 1 slightly curved guard for those of you that follow the Oakeshott typology. This sword is probably, I'm going to use English measurements. It's probably a light 1/8 of an inch thick at the hilt, and by this point it's down to a 1/16 of an inch thick. So this is very, very thin blade. It has 4 parallel fullers, which is fairly typical for the swords of this time period, the broad ones. It's very light and it's very fast. This sword is very unusual. It has the original limewood grip covered with very thin leather. So it's very rare that you have a sword from this time period with the original grip surviving. This was a river find. Some of the information I'm giving you is stuff that I was told by Ewart Oakeshott, which I'm going to take as true. You can tell it's a river find if you look closely at the blade. You can see these holes, there's these pits that run up and down the blade. And that's pretty typical of a river find, where it sinks into the mud. One side of the sword is up, one is down, and you can see there's almost no pits on this side, but there's a lot of pits on this side. So this would be upper side. So of course the water flowing over it, any pebbles or small objects would impact the blade more on the upper side. Originally this would have had a really thick, dark, purpley patina called geothite, which is very good at preserving swords, and it's very beautiful. But the owner before Ewart Oakeshott, who had this from about 1946 until 52, had it cleaned with electrolysis, and that kind of dulled it out. I don't think I have the exact weight in my mind, but this sword is around 1 3/4 pounds, so it's fairly light, fairly thick, discoid pommel. Now this has been restored under the grip. Ewart used to use this in lectures, and this had a bad spot that did in fact fail, so the grip was removed and the tang was restored. It's in pretty good shape. As you can see down the blade, it is not perfectly symmetrical. That is from honing. This sword was used for quite a period of time. Now I want to call special attention to this nick right here in the point. You'll see this nick. That nick is the reason we have this sword. In about 1945, Sir Edmund Burrell, who was in charge of the Kelvin Grove collection in Glasgow, was tipped off by Sir James Mann that a really good medieval sword was available. So he was going to get this for the Burrell collection in Glasgow. But he saw the nick and he passed on it because he didn't want a sword with a nick. So it came up to auction in 1946, way too much money for Ewart at the time, just post-war. So it was purchased by someone else. But then when he died in 1952, Ewart got this sword. So that nick is the reason that this sword is in my hands instead of in the Glasgow Museum at the Kelvin Grove collection. So aren't we lucky?